Welcome to You're Probably Right, the space for straight talk about life, love, and the choices that shape who we are. No filters, no fluff, and no pretending it's easy. Just real stories, honest questions, and maybe the truth you didn't know you needed. Got something on your mind? Email us at yprpodcast@gmail.com. Now, let's get into it.
What's up, y'all? It is I, MCM. How you doing? So check it out. This is going to be a long one, as you can see in the time. It's about being too nice too quickly in a relationship. Sorry, I just finished some coffee. It's funny. I don't even know if you heard that. You probably did. Let's just assume you did. Just remember, this podcast is for entertainment purposes only. I'm really happy you dropped in. I realize that some of my podcasts are long. I mean, I could technically, like for instance, this one, I could probably break it up into 5 parts if I wanted to, and just for the sake of getting out constant content. But I would rather those who do stop by and listen, come back if it's too long, which, it can be long, as I said, and I don't mind that. This podcast is not funded by anybody, so this is just for people who maybe want to listen to a talk about certain topics and want to learn something, and maybe you need to be beaten over the head a little bit in a direction so that you will maybe see the errors of your ways or whatever. So if it is too long, I like, this guy's been going on for an hour and there's not even a co-host. Understand that it's designed this way, and it's fine for you just to come back. I don't mind. It doesn't bother. I mean, algorithmically, if that is even a word, I'm sure it's better if I have a person listen straight through, but I don't mind if I even help one person, or if I get someone to consider the errors of their ways and they are able to fix something that's going wrong in their life constantly or whatever, then who cares about the algorithm, right? 239 in, and I think that I've done a good thing by continuing with this podcast, although wanting to stop a few times early on. And when I say early on, I'm like around 100. I'm happy that I'm still here. So hopefully you're happy I'm still here. If you've never been here before, please, at the end, if you do like this episode or anything that I've done, please subscribe or follow, like if you can. And also, if you could go to Apple and maybe rate me on Google. There's like only a couple there. And there's been way more than a couple people who've listened to this podcast. I don't know what's up. I guess people just don't like to switch browsers or something. But if you could, please, if you could pause right now and go in and like it in Apple, I'd really appreciate it. And if you could leave a comment, or if you could send an email if you have a question or something you want me to cover, or some kind of consideration or an argument of something that I said, no problem. As I always say, this is for entertainment purposes only. So it's not like I'm a professor of anything. So anyhow, let me get to it. But before I do, I want you to hear this. I explained in my last episode what this was. It is my voice, but it is cloned, and it is me speaking in an English accent. I just want you to hear this. This could be for you or for someone you know. You never know, right? Here we go. There we go. It's taking a long time. There you go. Yep. Yeah. Just having a little fun there with my voice on 11 Labs, guys. That's why that's there. I could have just spoken it myself, but anyhow. It was a part of an episode, and now it's like I almost want to play it every episode. I don't know why. I just think somebody needs to hear it somewhere, and I don't know when they're gonna tune in. So if it's you today, then I'm happy that I kept it on. Anyhow, welcome to episode 239. Being too nice too quickly in a relationship. If you've ever found yourself bending over backwards in a relationship, giving and giving in hopes of being loved in return, this episode is for you. There's hard truths most people don't want to hear. Being too nice does not heal a partner's fear of closeness, especially if they're an avoidant. And they have an avoidant attachment style. You might think if you just love them harder, accommodate every need, and never complain, they'll eventually feel safe enough to open up or nice enough to open up, because you might think that they're being mean. You believe unconditionally giving will melt their walls, but the reality is overgiving can actually push them further away. Think about it. When you're too available and too accommodating early on, you stop being someone they feel drawn to. Instead, they become comfortable, and maybe they don't even try to impress you anymore because they just feel like you're always going to be there. So they take you for granted. Many partners, those who tend to fear intimacy and pull away when things get too close, don't actually run from kindness. So don't be mistaken. They run from pressure. And here's the twist: being too nice too quickly can feel like pressure to them. It's as if your kindness comes with an invisible string attached. And maybe they're just not used to it. In most cases, they're not. I'm giving you everything, so please don't leave. That's an unspoken plea. That unspoken plea can make, especially in an avoidant person who has an attachment style. I don't know what's that word with me, avoidant attachment style. I think it's the one I add the attachment style to it. Feel trapped rather than loved. In today's episode, I'm going to give you a guide, or at least I'm going to try to guide you through 8 key shifts you must make to break free of that exhausting cycle of chasing an avoidant partner while, with kindness, only to be met with coldness. We'll start by setting up why overgiving is a problem, then identify the behaviors that create the unbalanced dynamic. We'll talk about the consequences of these patterns, and most importantly, how to change the course by building self-worth and or at least setting healthier boundaries. Each section will shine a little light on one aspect of this pattern: why it happens, how it happens, and how it impacts your relationship, and what you can do differently starting from now, at least even in your mind, if you're not even in a relationship right now. Now, obviously, I can honestly tell you that personally, I am a person who likes to give, likes to bend over backwards, but it's something that I have to actually look in to myself to see, is it that I'm giving to get something? Is it giving to get love, to feel loved, to be important in someone's life? Because, when I look down like the road, let's say I'm in a relationship for 20 years or something, I think I would want to be giving everything I could give to that person. And at that point, I don't think it would be for them to love me. I think it would be to show them that I love them. You know what I mean? And I think there's a difference, because I don't know if some people get to that point where that's just what they're doing. They're not doing it to get anything. It's just, I want to love on you. You know what I mean? And I think that's a good place to strive for. It's just a question of whether or not you're doing it too quickly. That's what all this is about. My tone today is going to be conversational, sort of coaching, sort of teaching, but I'm not a teacher, remember. um, I want you to feel like we're just having a heart to heart conversation, because that's what we are doing. And if it carries on too long, just come back. You know what I mean? I know it's not going to help me in the algorithm if people are cutting out after 15 minutes, but I guess if you continue, maybe it helps me. I don't know if it even acts as another what do you call it, stream or whatever it is. But I understand that my episodes can be long, but I like to beat something until it's you get it. And someone always says, if you want to really learn somebody or learn something, or you really want to prove something, try to teach it. And I guess while I'm speaking here, I'll be interjecting different things, or hopefully I'll be, really hammering it in my own head at the same time while talking to you. So look at me as just a friend, just hanging out with you. You know what I mean? All right. So you might even catch me imagining what you're thinking and addressing it directly. That's usually how my brain works anyways, because I've heard so many people in your shoes say things like, I'm just a natural, nice person, or I'm a giver. That's what I do. What's wrong with that? We're going to answer that and more by the end of this episode. I hope you'll see that love isn't about sacrificing yourself to be loved, because you're worthy of love from other people right off the bat. Not that you should feel better about yourself than you should, but know that you're not garbage. You've been created by a loving God, and that's why you're here. Otherwise, you wouldn't have been born in the first place. It's about mutual respect, healthy give and take, and knowing your own worth. So let's get into it, as the lady said. Before we jump into the 8 points, I want to reassure you, none of this is about blaming you or saying you should stop being a kind person, because we need more kind people, obviously. Kindness is a beautiful trait. The goal here is to help you direct that kindness in a healthy way, so you're not giving at the expense of yourself or your self-respect or your sanity. It's about finding balance. So if you're ready to recognize these patterns and make a change, let's get started with first big idea. And, I'm really speaking to people like, the guy who maybe he goes on a big date, or woman, and takes this person on their first date to a restaurant, and they pay $200 for the first date. Barely know the person from anything. And you start off like that. It's like, once you've gone to that pinnacle, and I'm talking about somebody who just works an average job. So maybe a person who doesn't even make, or just barely makes, like $200 in a day at work or something like that. And you got your bills. Maybe you still have a university, tuition to still finish paying, or you have kids, or you have a car note or insurance, and maybe you have a mortgage. You know what I mean? Like, if you're just going on a first date and you're dropping 200 on every first date, that's a lot of money. Or you're the kind of person who just, oh, I saw this and it looked like you needed to have it, and it's a very, very expensive thing. You barely know the person, or you're just barely getting to know the person. They might keep you around just because you're giving away these amazing parting gifts every time they see you. You know what I mean? Anyhow, let me get into it. Okay. Number 1, overgiving. When being nice becomes pressure. Overgiving is tricky because it feels like love and generosity on your side. But to some partners, it can feel like pressure in disguise. You might not realize it, but when you shower someone with affection, agree to all their requests, and say yes to everything too early or too often, there's often a silent expectation attached. It silently signals, I'm giving you all of this, so you'd better stay and never leave me. In other words, it comes across as conditional. For someone who is avoidant, of course, and fears being emotionally cornered, that unspoken demand can feel like a trap. Let's unpack this with a possible scenario. Imagine you've just started dating someone you really like. Within a couple weeks, you're already doing so much for them, driving them to the airport at 5 a.m., cooking their favorite meals whenever they mention a craving, clearing your schedule whenever they want to hang out. You think, I'm showing how devoted I am and how devoted I can be. I'm proving I'll always be there. But from the other side, your new partner, especially if they have avoidant tendencies, might start feeling uneasy. They're getting a message that no matter how they treat you, you'll always be there, waiting with open arms. It's human nature that when we feel someone will always be there no matter what, we start to take it for granted. The hard truth is, when someone feels they don't have to work for your presence, they stop valuing it. They stop trying. It's not because they're evil or ungrateful. It's just psychology, simple psychology. I mean, obviously, there are some evil people out there who are just in it to get a new Birkin and you get a Macai's coat or a new pair of whatever or expensive dinners every Friday. We value what we earn and what we put effort into. If you're serving love on a silver platter 24/7, the partner never has a chance to choose you or invest effort. Over time, they might unconsciously, un- unconsciously believe, that's a new word, unconsciously believe your presence is guaranteed, regardless of what they do. And you probably can set yourself up for some bad behavior. And what the, ironically, that can make them less motivated to meet your needs or deepen the connection. They're working for nothing. Another thing to consider, why are you giving so much so quickly? Like really, really, like I'm really, really think about this. When I'm asking these questions, guys, I really, really want you just to think. Even if you got to stop me going on and just think about it. Like sit there, put your hand on your chin and say, why am I giving this person so much already? What have they done to deserve this? Anyway, many people in this situation tell themselves, it's just who I am. I'm generous, caring, attentive person. And yes, you likely are naturally kind, but it's important to get honest with yourself. Underneath that giving, is there a hidden hope or fear? Are you thinking, if I do enough for them, if I show enough kindness, then surely they'll stay. They'll open up, they'll love me back. They might even say it. They might love me back the same way. If you feel a pang of recognition at that, don't beat yourself up. It's a very human reaction, especially if you fear losing them. Maybe you feel like you just found the one and you just, I better give them everything. I'm going to throw the kitchen sink at them. I don't want them to go. I'm going to knock them off their feet. I guess if you did throw the kitchen sink, they would. Anyway. But recognize that at that point, your giving isn't free and unconditional. It's a currency you're spending in exchange for love and security. When giving becomes transactional, even subconscious, the energy in the relationship shifts. Love that is freely given is received with warmth, but love given as a transaction is often met with resistance. Weird, right? Think about it. Your partner might not articulate it, but they sense when every act of your kindness has an invisible price tag. Please stay with me. That's what it says on the price tag. This makes them feel cornered, even if you never say those words out loud. From their perspective, all this niceness starts to feel like a heavy expectation to reciprocate or commit, and that triggers their fear. So the first shift here, and I've seen someone like this, and I know a person who was with this person, and they would just shower them with gifts, and the funny thing was happening was every time she tried to give the guy the gift, he would take it, he would feel funny, he would talk to me about it, and then he'd try to give it back. And then she'd try to force it to him and he'd try to give it back. And then finally he would accept it. And that happened probably 3 or 4 times. Now it was interesting to see it, you know? He thought he was just being, or sorry, she was just being nice, but it was a little bit off-putting for him. And I guess he felt like there was strings attached and he was going to have to hang out longer than he might want to. And he wasn't sure about her. So the first shift here is to take a hard look at your giving. Ask yourself, am I giving because it's truly who I am and I want to? Or am I giving out of fear of losing them, or fear that I'm not enough unless I give? Am I giving to add to their life or to compensate for how little they're giving me or how little I feel about myself as far as being adequate? Be brutally honest with yourself here. It's okay if you realize a lot of your overgiving stems from insecurity and anxiety. Awareness is the first step to change. And maybe you're living that way, and maybe you were in a situation before where someone was always treating you bad, and you had to do things for them all the time. And even though you always felt like maybe you had a knife in your back, or you were always walking on eggshells, but maybe it made your life a little bit easier. Every time you did something nice, maybe they gave you a break. Maybe they didn't shower you with love or shower you with gifts, but you noticed that there was a slight niceness that's not usually there when you're giving or doing. So you just kept doing. So you got into the habit of just doing and doing and doing. And honestly, another reason why I'm doing this episode is because I really feel for you. It's not easy to be in a situation, maybe for years or maybe just months, that you're working for love. I envision maybe Cinderella, working upstairs in the fairy godmother's house or wherever. I can't remember how that story really goes, but just working and working and working while everybody else was at play. You're there working and working to be loved, working to be accepted. And it never fully came, even if they tolerated you in whatever situation you were in. Whatever, little breadcrumbs that they gave you, that wasn't love. And you don't have to continue to do that for anybody. And you don't have to start with that with anybody as well. When you recognize that you've been using being nice as a way to buy love and security, you can start to change, how you approach giving anyway. The goal is to shift from needing to give to feel secure or worthy, to choosing to give from a full heart. This means you fill your own cup first and give from genuine abundance, not desperation. When you give freely without strings attached, paradoxically, it's often more warm and they'll warmly receive. So when you have that truth of knowing who you are and knowing that you have value. When you give out of that, it's different from giving out of a desperate condition. And when you stop over giving, you make space to see if the other person will step up. Remember, a healthy relationship is a two-way street. If you find yourself doing all of the work, it's a sign something is off balance. It's kind of like giving anything, and it doesn't have to be just gifts. It doesn't have to be money. It doesn't have to be time. It doesn't have to be effort. It could be as simple as, as they say, over texting. Why are you're always reaching out, always reaching out? You reach out with a paragraph, they send you back a word. You send back 2 paragraphs, they send you back a word, or don't even send back anything. You move on to the next day like nothing happened, and maybe you had questions or considerations and nothing gets addressed. They ignore 7 things you said and speak to 1. And there's no deep dive on that 1 even. Then you know you're giving too much, giving of yourself too much. In summary for this point, overgiving early on being too nice too fast can backfire. It can come across as pressure for the other person and can devalue your presence in their eyes. Check in with your motives for giving. If there's fear driving it, it's time to pull back and reset the balance. Love isn't something you earn by sacrificing yourself. Which brings us to our next point. How having boundaries and self-respect is actually far more attractive and effective than endless niceness. Boy, I don't know if I'm going to get all this in. I think I'm going to have to do 2 episodes. Jeez. Okay, number 2, boundaries. I'm doing 8 of these things, guys, and it's already almost a half an hour. Oh my goodness. Number 2, boundaries are a blessing, not a barrier. Let's talk about boundaries. This is a big one. A lot of people cringe at the word boundaries because they think it means being cold, harsh, putting up walls. You might worry that setting boundaries will push someone away. But in reality, boundaries are not walls at all. They're doors with locks, protecting the value inside. In other words, boundaries guard your self-respect and well-being, while still allowing love to flow in and out in a healthy way. When you have clear emotional boundaries, you're not blocking love. You're actually creating the safest possible space for love to exist, especially with a partner like an avoidant. Why are boundaries so critical, especially with an avoidant? It comes down to the avoidant's core fear, being engulfed or losing themselves in a relationship. Avoidant individuals fear being controlled or consumed by someone else's needs of emotion. Now, here's the paradox. If you have no boundaries and you're willing to bend over backwards no matter what, you might think you're being the ultimate loving partner, but to an avoidant, that actually confirms their worst fear, that a relationship means losing control and being drowned in someone else's life. Let me move this down a little bit. There we go. Just trying to see if I can go on to at least 115. Let's see. All right. Think about it from this perspective. If every time they pull back or need space, you immediately rush in closer, offering more reassurance, more patience, more of yourself, you're essentially allowing them to set all the terms of the relationship. They withdraw and you advance. They say jump and you say, how high? You might believe you're just showing unconditional love and being a giver, but what's really happening is you've handed them all the power. There's no balance, no structure to protect your needs. They can decide how much closer or closeness or distance there will be. And you'll simply adjust yourself to whatever they choose. You're a pushover. Over time, this dynamic quietly erodes respect on both sides. Human beings naturally value structure and mutual respect. Without boundaries, there's no structure. And without structure, there's no stability, right? It's kind of like pouring water. You pour water and you're just pouring and you're pouring and you're pouring out of a hose, right? Say you're the hose and you're just pouring it into the air. Maybe you put a thumb over it and you're just spraying it to everything. You're trying to get all the plants all at once, right? Whereas if you poured it into a glass, there would be a measure, right? So there'd be an amount that the glass is going to be full. Plus it has structure because of the glass as well. That's a boundary. Your partner doesn't consciously think, I wish they'd have boundaries, but subconsciously, they start to lose respect because nothing seems to be off limits. They can do whatever they want. They can slap you around maybe, maybe they're too rough with you. Or, you have nothing. There's no self-respect for you. There's no self-respect really protecting you yourself. It's as if you're saying, I'll put up with anything just to keep you. And if you've ever been there or if you're there right now, you know that's not a good road to be down. And you're going to live like that for the rest of your life with this person? Nah, that doesn't make any sense and it won't benefit you at all. Boundaries are actually earn respect from your partner. Weird, right? So you're actually setting up walls and they actually respect it. What can they do? They get to your boundary and they have to push off. They have to respect it. It might sound counterintuitive, but you calmly and firmly hold to your standards when you demonstrate that you love them, but will not betray yourself to keep them. You have to understand there are others out there. There's 8 billion of us on this planet. You have to realize that you're not magically the worst one. You know what I mean? You might not feel good about yourself, but you can get someone else. And that person has to know that. They can't think that you think so low of yourself that that person has to be the one. Otherwise, you're in for a rough ride, or maybe you're already in a rough ride. Something powerful happens when you set up a boundary. The avoidant sees that you're not chasing them to complete you. You're not desperate. You're not a desperate soul looking to be filled up by their presence. You're not in awe of their glory, You stand complete on your own. And the relationship is a wonderful addition to your life, not the definition of your life. That mindset is attractive and relieving to them. It shows them that being with you won't cost them their autonomy or identity because you haven't surrendered yours. Now let's address a common fear. If I set boundaries, won't they just leave? Won't I be testing their love too much? It can feel risky to start asserting needs if you haven't before. And the true reality is they could leave, and you have to be okay with that. Especially if you fear losing them, but consider the alternative. If you never set boundaries and continue to always allow, whatever behavior that happens to hurt you in various ways, wait, what does it say? Wait, hold on, I had to write this. It hurts. Okay. Anyway, it just leaves you unfulfilled. That's the best way I could say that. You're effectively saying, my needs don't matter. And if you say your needs don't matter, why would your partner treat them like they do if you're not even treating them like they do? You're just going to be, a pushover. In the long run, consistently betraying your own boundaries guarantees pain. And not only pain from your partner, but pain from yourself. And you're also going to end up resenting you and probably resenting them at the same time. Because you're going to be like, why is this person never doing for me? And you never set up any boundaries for them to do anything for you. You've always just given and done. It might help to reframe what boundaries really are. Boundaries aren't about punishing someone or issuing, ultimatums left and right. They're about communicating clearly what is and isn't okay for you and standing by it. There's no point in putting up a wall or a boundary, as somebody would call it, or a line, a line in the sand, if you're going to keep allowing someone to step over it or stepping over it yourself. For example, a boundary can be as simple as saying, I care about you, but I need consistency to feel safe in this relationship. Or, I respect your need for space, but I also won't stay in a connection where I feel ignored and unimportant. Notice something about these statements. They're calm, they're clear, and self respecting. You're not attacking the other person, you're just stating what you need for this relationship to work. That's all. It could still be nice, but being clear at the same time. So you can't be a pushover. When you communicate boundaries like that, two things happen. First, you create a container where love can actually breathe. You're saying, here is the space in which I feel safe and valued. Within these bounds, I can love you deeply. Outside of these, I start to lose myself. This actually makes the relationship safer for the avoidant as well, because now they know the rules of engagement. They don't have to guess what will upset you later on because you've been upfront. It removes the hidden pressure. Secondly, when you enforce a boundary by action, not just words, you demonstrate self-worth. For instance, if they consistently ignore your needs for communication and you follow through by stepping back or leaving, you show them that they weren't empty words. You wanted time. You believe they needed space, but you're somebody as well. You're willing to walk away rather than stay somewhere where you're not respected. That might feel scary, but it's powerful. And you have to understand. You can't say, okay, well, I'm going to walk away for a week. No, 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 no. You have to be willing to walk away indefinitely until they see where they are and they see how they're treating you. You can't just, and again, you're not doing it as a punishment to them. You're doing it out of love for yourself. And you are worth it and you are somebody. And you have to realize that. And I know it's hard to really see it. And I know it's hard to actually try to follow through. But it's like, what's the alternative? The alternative is being abused. And you're the person who's allowing it to happen. They're a participant, but you're allowing it. Here's an interesting thing. Avoidant partners will often test boundaries. So there's another thing. They're going to actually test them anyways. Not necessarily in a malicious way, but their subconscious often pushes to see where the line is, how far and what they can get away with. They might cancel plans last minute, go days without contacting you, or push your emotional limits in little ways. If you keep tolerating everything, keep giving up your needs and voice to keep the peace, they actually feel less safe, not more. Because now the avoidant senses that unspoken expectation you're building, it's building in you. You're doing all this with a smile, but deep down, you must be expecting something back, they're going to think. Since no one can truly be happy always giving and never receiving, that unspoken expectation is felt as pressure and they retreat further. On the flip side, imagine you respond to a boundary test with calm strength. Suppose your partner goes, radio silence for a few days after you've been steadily dating. Previously, you might have flooded their phone with check-ins or anxiously awaiting their return, but now instead you use that time to live your life. We'll talk more about maintaining your own life in a later point. When they do reconnect, you express calmly that disappearing without a heads up isn't okay with you. You might say something like, I don't mind if you need space, but I would appreciate knowing rather than wondering. Like, nobody wants to wonder. Like, if you're always in contact, and all of a sudden they cut off and they're gone for the whole day, or they're gone for a few days, and nothing is said, it's like, that's not okay for if that's the way you've been connecting all this time. You understand? So if you already kind of set the terms of how you would usually communicate, and then the person just out of the blue does something totally different without saying anything to you, that has nothing to do with them taking space. That's just disrespect. That's a boundary. You're indicating what you need to feel secure. If they continue to ghost you, as they say, you enforce it by reevaluating the relationship. This shows you're serious about how you deserve to be treated. When you protect your emotional boundaries, you stop being someone who passively adapts to an avoidant partner. You're no longer contorting yourself to fit their every whim or fear. Instead, you invite them into a healthier rhythm, one where both people need comfort and your comfort level matters. This evens the playing field. The connection stops being about one person running and the other chasing. It becomes about two people meeting in the middle by mutual choice. In short, boundaries are often or are a form of self-love, really, and respect that also benefits your partner. They create structure, stability, clarity by knowing where you stand and what you expect. A partner can feel safer. There's no hidden agenda, no guesswork, and they can step up to meet your standards if they truly love you and value you, right? Or maybe they don't love you yet, but at least they'll value you. And if they don't meet you there, then your boundaries have done you the favor of relieving you of that person, really, because they're obviously not capable of being in a relationship with you that you deserve. Either way, you win by honoring yourself. Remember, I can love you deeply, but I will not betray myself to do it. That mentality changes everything. And you have to really look at it. Am I giving because I love to give? Or am I giving because I don't feel like I'm worth anything and I have to supplement my presence with something to be accepted? Almost like you're bowing before a king with frankincense and myrrh. You know what I mean? All right, number 3. Oh, I'm here watching the time. We're at almost 45 minutes and I have a maximum of 118 minutes. Ah, this is a long one. I wonder if I should stop it here and come back. I think, you know what? I think that's what I'm going to do. Actually, no, let me go on a little bit longer because I don't want it to be cut in the next one and I have to do a third one. That'd be crazy, right? Okay. 3, embrace comfortable silence and space. One of the most uncomfortable experiences for someone with an anxious or a people-pleasing tendency is silence or a distance from their partner, right? You know what I'm talking about, right? If you fear abandonment, the moment there's a pause, a gap in a conversation, or a delay in their response, your mind might start racing with worry. Are they upset? Are they losing interest? Did I do something wrong? That anxiety can become so intense that you feel you must fill the silence immediately, sending a check-in text, offering reassurance, trying to fix it. Whatever you imagine might be wrong. And our minds can go for days, right? And they can race all over the place. I've heard people say, well, I just want to make sure they're okay. I'm being attentive. It comes from a caring place, but with an avoidant partner, that instinct backfires in a big way. Here's why. An avoidant actually needs some silence and space to feel safe. Distance for them is not automatically a sign that something's wrong. Often it's just part of their natural rhythm. When you rush too close, or rush to close every quiet moment, the message you inadvertently send is, I cannot tolerate any space between us. I'm panicking because you're not constantly reassuring me. To an avoidant, that reads as pressure and neediness. Let's put ourselves in the avoidance shoes for a second. Say they've had a long day and haven't texted all evening. Anxious minds on your side is thinking, they usually say goodnight. Why aren't they? Why aren't they? Something must be off. So you send a text. Hey, everything okay? No reply for an hour. So maybe another. Just wanted to say, I hope you're having a good night. Still nothing. And now perhaps you send a third message or a question mark. From the avoidance perspective, what was a simple evening of needing a little space, quiet, or dealing with their own thoughts or situations or whatever it is, now it's turned into managing your anxiety, which probably gives them anxiety, right? They get all the messages and feel, oh man, I can't even have a little time to myself without them freaking out. Your well-intentioned check-ins have unintentionally communicated that you can't handle even a small dose of distance. This makes them feel suffocated, on edge, and ironically, even more inclined to pull away to get the space that they crave. Silence isn't always rejection. Sometimes silence is simply just, you guessed it, silence. It can mean your partner is processing their thoughts, recharging emotionally, or simply living their life in that moment. We all have different emotional tempos, and an avoidant tempo often includes more pauses and solitude. When you treat every quiet moment as a sign of doom, you not only torture yourself, but you also interrupt their natural process and replace it with your urgency. Your urgency doesn't feel like love to them, it feels like pressure and control. The paradox here is that the more comfortable you become with silence, the more an avoidant can actually relax in your presence. If they sense that you're not anxiously hovering, waiting for them to fill every gap, they don't feel chased. The connection starts to feel voluntary and not forced. And guess what? That's when they're most likely to step forward and connect with you on their own. Why? Because they feel safe. They don't feel like being with you in is a job, or a chore, where they must constantly reassure and entertain you to keep you from panicking. They can breathe. And in that breathing room, their affection, their affection and interest have space to grow. Sorry, I'm corny sometimes, but I love that about myself. Now, does this mean you should tolerate extreme forms of silence or indifference endlessly? Absolutely not. We're not saying you need you accept partners who ghost you for weeks or ignore you chronically. What it means is you stop reacting, to every little lull as if it's the beginning of the end. If they take a few hours or a day to themselves, you don't spiral. You keep living your life in those spaces. Use that time to engage in your own passions, connect with friends or family, take care of your body, your mind, your spirit. Show them and yourself that while you value the connection, you're not dependent on it for your own sense of stability or happiness. Never let them see you sweat. That commercial, that deodorant commercial. Basically, that's what it's about. You might even be, inside cringing and, oh, what the heck? Why haven't they responded? But just don't let it until you can really, really honestly mean it. They say fake it till you make it. And hopefully, the understanding you're getting from this, that you'll not have to fake it so much because you'll understand why you're doing it and you'll understand it's a necessity. There's something really attractive about a person who isn't rattled by a little space. Imagine telling your partner calmly, "Hey, I noticed you were quiet yesterday. I figured you needed a little time. So I went and caught up with a friend and had a nice evening. Hope you're feeling all right today." This kind of vibe shows them you're not measuring the health of a relationship by hour to hour or communication. You're steady, and ironically, that steadiness offers often encourages the avoidant party to come closer because they feel free to choose closeness instead of being chased into it. On the flip side, when you don't freak out over silence, you also give yourself a gift. You reclaim your own time, peace of mind. Instead of spending hours anxiously analyzing what a 30-minute texting delay means, you're off enjoying your life. Your mood isn't entirely at the mercy of their communication schedule. This makes you more grounded, more happy, less likely to burn out from emotional, roller coasters that can happen from time to time just from you sitting there waiting. To practice this, start small. Next time there's a pause or they seem distant, take a deep breath. I'm not going to do it this time. Remind yourself, silent isn't automatically something bad. They might just need, a breath. I can use this time for me and actually do something enjoyable or productive for yourself. If you put down all your hobbies, pick one back up again. Maybe set a time in the week that you're going to do it. Reach out to a friend. If a real issue needs to be addressed, say they have been distant for maybe an unusually long time, or you sense something is wrong, actually sense something is wrong, approach it calmly and directly later, not in a panic or in a rush. Take your time. You might say, "We haven't talked so much this week. Is everything okay with you?" Especially if the pattern is off, you understand? It's not just they're taking breaks and they always take breaks or they're always silent or there's always a gap. If that's the regularity all the time, then that's different. But if something's actually off, that's different, right? And just say, "I want to make sure we're good." That's a composed way to check in without sounding accusatory or desperate. Embracing silence and space is about building your tolerance, right? So you're building a tolerance for a natural rhythm in the relationship. It shows trust in your partner to come back in their own way, and trust in yourself that you'll be okay even if they're not glued to you. When you master this, you stop suffocating the relationship. You let it breathe, you let them breathe, and you breathe as well. And breathing room, respect, and attraction can go very, very long, a very, very long way for both of you. And I think I'm going to cut it there since I'm seemingly halfway. All right, so I'm going to pick back up again on number 4. So hopefully you're enjoying this. I know that my reading is not the greatest. Hopefully, I could just riff on these topics on my own without reading. But if I don't go through the full thought out structure of this, then I won't get the full message off. And even as I'm reading, sometimes it'll sound like I'm riffing. I am, because maybe I want to expand on certain points. You know what I mean? So I'm going to go back. I'm going to put this one in the can, and I'm going to be right back in my next episode, which will be 240. Okay. So just in case you're on a platform that my podcast is all over the place, know that the next one you'll be listening to pick up from this one will be number 240. Okay? All right. Take care and see you next time. Hey, come check out You Probably Right podcast. Society is getting more unpredictable every day, but at the same time, predictable in its unpredictability. Say that 4 times real fast. Come with me as I attempt to find clarity in all the fog while staying way outside the box and kicking the box way down the road with my size 12 docs. I use the Bible, experience, education, fortune, misfortune, life's lessons, life's mistakes to sort through all the mess. I talk about news, God, God, self-help, sports, sickness, health, music, parenting, love, humbleness, hurt, pain, joy, and all the things that might make you say, I never thought of it that way. Hopefully, anyway. Also, I take a stab at answering tough and not so tough questions, and all the while understand that, listen, sometimes you end up in the hot seat and there's no thermostat. Well, that's how it is here. And because there's no topic, very few topics off the table, Torontonians will understand that Doug Ford reference there. Hopefully the podcast will be helpful and uplifting. And hey, maybe you'll find your own private Idaho here somewhere. Hope to see you soon.